It's time to talk some IT with Glenn and Tony. It's time to talk some IT tonight. It's time to talk some IT. Time to share this post and like the show. 'Cause tonight at 9 it's time that we do talk some IT. Time with Glenn and Tony. Time to talk some IT. You know it was meant for you and me. Come on, let's talk some IT. I don't know who's out there yet and who has seen that we have gone live, but if you could kindly please heart and share the show. We have a few seconds here before Glenn comes aboard. He was getting, the C word, coffee. That's right.
I'm here.
And he has made it. I hope you all are ready. So let's talk some IT with Glenn and Tony. Take it away, boys.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Glenn.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to have you back.
Yeah, man, yeah. Good to be back. Got the setup going over here, got some cameras, got some coffee, got all that squared away, so that's important.
Yep, just
And,
pushed to.
and how about by you? You got your cameras going there, I see. Yep, you got your keyboard happening, everything good there. Let me see about this one.
I'm in the back.
There we go. So that way we can see the keys over here. Hopefully that's not too loud. We should be good with
that
that.
sounds good.
Thanks.
And
Ridiculous
I can see
is
the
working.
keys you play.
Nice. Nice. That's the way that works. I love that visualizer you got. He's a good one. Getting any rest this week, or are you going to catch up this weekend?
I'm going to catch up this weekend. This week has been Wuru.
Busy. It's all right. We'll catch up over the weekend.
But it's looking good. We've got everything in place, and the 21st going to be a big event. You guys are going to love it.
Absolutely. Sounds like it'll be a lot of fun. I was looking at some videos recently about different pentatonic scales. That was one that we should talk about sometime. And it was just kind of eye-opening to see all these different ones. Like, I'm used to just major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, and that's it. But there are a lot of other options of scales that are only using 5 notes. And they're worth exploring because some of them work well. A couple of them even work well in metal situations, which were pretty cool ones to see the examples of. Because they had kind of, a lot of metal songs, they'll have that Phrygian kind of feel to them with that flat 2 is a lot of that feel. And some of these, pentatonic scales even are using that. And a lot of them sound, I think a couple of them, at least 4 or 5 of them were all Japanese scales specifically, and some of them were Hindu or Indian scales. I mean, there was a bunch of different ones that all had really different exotic sounds. So we'll definitely have to check out that video sometime.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what the Japanese and the Indian scales modify to get that unique kind of sound.
In a lot of cases, some of them were, if you were to take, say, the harmonic minor scale, and you were to look at the actual notes and you just leave 2 of them out, and it's just, instead of leaving out the ones that you might suspect and you would normally leave out for a minor pentatonic scale, you leave out different ones, and you see what you end up with. So there are some that turn out that way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, see, I used to think with the Japanese, like, if you just hit the... just like the black keys.
Yep, they can give you a feel like that. Yeah, sure. And that's the thing is that pentatonic can give you a lot of different feels. Like that could be an island feel if it had a different kind of a swing to it. You know, it's all about how the bounce or swing is for what kind of an overall style comes across, and as to what scale you're hitting to see what's happening. But for a lot of these pentatonics, the thing that made them all sound different to me was the fact that a lot of them had notes right next to each other, which we don't have in the major and minor pentatonics at all. So
that's what's different, I think, between
even something
Western
like
and Eastern music.
if you take those four and you add one more note. And I'm not even sure what we necessarily call that, but
That actually sounds really nice with the A.
you get that E and the F in there, and the B and the C in there, where those are right next to each other, and then you throw that A in as well. And it sounds exotic. It sounds different. It's still all white notes.
Kind of hard to play, actually. My fingers.
I was using two hands. I was cheating. I was doing some of this like with two hands. I was using the first two on the CD or the F.
Yeah, forcing my middle finger to go to the A really throws off the last three notes.
In this case, like I was saying, I was using the left hand to do the first two notes. That's my left hand. And then the right hand to do... I mean, I have two hands. I can use two hands. If I'm trying to hold a scale down or hold a chord down, that's different. But if I'm not, like a lot of times I am doing stuff like that. Or just, you know, if you're trying to do a melody line, there's nothing saying I have to just use one hand. And sometimes those crossovers, like we were talking about at one point, the crossovers when you're doing scales, to get that thumb tucked under or to go up to a black note at this point on that finger, you can get to an awkward spot and be like, ugh, and like trip on your own fingers trying to get somewhere. Where a lot of times if you do it, if you're using two hands or if you're trying to anticipate those things, or even if you're trying to simplify, and a lot of times even just using a motor system of 3 fingers, like we've seen a few videos from some people who advocate a system where you can get all the way up and down the keyboard in the scale, in a scale that works for the key that you're playing in, just using 3 fingers if you want to, so that you can never get tripped up because you're never stuck on the
thumb, pointy, middle.
Yep, they were using those 3, and at one point the I think that's what they were doing.
Yeah, well, these 3 really work nice together. I can see.
And if you were to just pick any pentatonic or just any scale that you wanted to try to do, if you were to just work those 3 up the line, a lot of the scales that you work with probably don't have 5 flats or 6 sharps or whatever. A lot of them are more simplified, so they only have a couple of sharps or flats. So there's only a couple spots that would get awkward. And in a lot of cases, if it has 3 or less, or even I'd say 4 or less sharps or flats, that's still only 2 in a row anywhere, and then a break in between, so you can get yourself resituated. It's only when you get to the 5 and 6 and beyond that things start getting ugly. Or if you're doing other kinds of modifications, if you're doing sharp 11s and 13s and things that are not necessarily 11s in your scale normally. Things that are
11s,
additions.
11s are dark.
Sure.
Hey, Night Bites Day, Rolo.
Yep. Night,
hey,
Rolo.
guys.
How you guys doing? What I wonder is how loud are the drums on this thing?
Sound good.
Not explosive.
No, it sounds good.
And then I think the rhythm that we had was kind of pretty low.
Is that the rhythm you were using with the A?
That was the bossa nova. Let's see. That's all A major right there.
Oh, A major?
If we wanted to do A minor, we could just do this one. That's cheap.
Yeah, I was thinking that when we were doing before the show, the A to B to E. It's A1.
We were doing it all in minor, yeah.
5. In minor.
Then this is D minor. Yeah, and then we were back to the A minor, yeah. Then up to that E, right? I like the way it does that. When I need to do is get that looper set up so that I can sit and just take like little chunks like that, get that recorded, and then work around that with some other instrument.
I think I can kind of feel that. You said that's the bossa nova beat?
Yeah. And actually, just by me doing this, now it's no chord on there, so now it is just the beat. So you can play whatever chords you want, and this doesn't interfere with you now. And like you could use that groove.
Makes me want to bounce.
Exactly. It's one that's impossible to sit still for sure.
Well, I'm thinking that like offhand bounce.
Sorry. Trying to change sounds and I change rhythms.
See, and that's where the beat kind of like shapes where the chords, how the chords bounce.
Sometimes I go through the changes too fast. It feels like I'm going double the speed I should be. I should like let it hang longer on each one. But it's good.
Well,
I like the
a beat
it's a
like
good groove.
that. A beat like that, you really can't slow down too much because that kind of beat really does want to be, at a slightly faster speed. You kind of almost want a dancing speed.
Yep. And there's a couple different ones. Like that was, Bossa Nova one was that one, and then second one has the bell pattern for you. So that like you recognize that from several places. And then when we tell that one, let's tell this one that we're gonna do it in. Let's do this one in F major. So if I tell it, let's see what it does for F major. I would usually hang there for a little while as it's like getting ready. And even there, it's one of those where we could just even do it by itself and then play along to that, Just bouncing that F and C as there. And then you go whenever you felt like you'd go somewhere else. Big finish. It does a little almost a fade out. Yep, there you go.
That's how you big finish.
You got the fireworks on yours. You got the visualizer. That's cheating, but in a good way. So yeah,
Oh,
Bossa
the
Nova 2 has a
fireworks
lot more of
help.
that. Bossa Nova 2 has a lot more of the hi-hat or the cymbal bell stuff going on at the top there. But also another one that kind of has that good groove. Now, samba is another good one, just as far as going through some different beats here. Yeah, samba.
And if you're gonna do a samba, what's your key choice?
In this case, I would say it depends if you're playing, if you're accommodating string players or not. Like if you're dealing with guitar players, and not everybody has guitar players in their lives that tune way down to like drop A or drop B or whatever. A lot of people just deal with E as like the lowest, that is standard.
These days, I'm actually surprised. These days, it's harder to find a guitarist who standard tunes anymore. But that's
Sure.
all in metal, you know. And
But for that reason, that would be one of those things where like E would be one of the lower keys I would go down to. But playing in something like F sharp would be nice as far as for the guitarist because you're up there. But then that's making it weird for us because playing on the keys, you're playing all black notes because you're playing in the key of G flat or whatever we're doing there. If you're just doing the pentatonic, it would just be all the black notes, but starting and ending on that G flat. But again, so to accommodate both, I would kind of stick to more. Let's say G, for example, has the one sharp.
well, from the bass side, because like a samba is bass centric. So like
Oh yeah.
like
Well, for
like
me,
what would you bounce on? Like
the main thing is not even what note it is. Like I don't even care really because I just find a note and go from there. So I just find the one and just bounce off of that. So it's more like asking what key I would normally want to play, and it's like I'll just find whatever it is. Because a lot of cases too, they might change what key a song would normally be done in because to accommodate a singer. A singer might want to do it slightly higher, slightly lower, based on how their voice is feeling that day. Like they might not be able to hit that one high note, but they could probably get real close, so they want to bring it down a whole step, and then they can comfortably hit it and not strain
yeah,
themselves.
or
So that kind of thing.
if you were dealing with like brass or something that you had to kind of tune to. It's not just singers that we tune
Yeah.
to.
No, it's true, and that's one thing that people would sometimes go ahead and do that and either tune down. Like I've seen guitar players have a tune down pedal. Like one of the bands that I work with, they have a pedal where he can just be playing in E as standard tuning, and then if a song requires to be tuned down to D, for example, he can just click on this pedal and just go click click, and he's down and tuned in D. It just basically modulates him down however many half steps he tells it to. So they do that. It's the same as using the transpose function on the keyboard, but it's something that people like to stay away from sometimes. Sometimes it's on the guitar itself, and some of the guitars you can just actually push in on like the volume knob and then turn it, and you start tuning to an alternate tuning just by changing that. So you're not actually changing the tension in the strings. You're just changing what tuning it thinks it's in, or what tuning comes through. It's doing the modulation on board to get you that tone, so you don't have to tune it down directly.
Yeah, I kind of take for granted that I can just hit the transpose button.
Yeah. And some people, don't even like doing that because in that case, you could sit there. If you always like to play on the white notes, for example, with no black keys, you could just transpose anything back to C and just play, white notes all day, and you'd be fine. You'd never be hitting an out note. Sometimes you want to hit out notes, so there is that, using little, chromatic passages and things like that. But you can get away with a lot using that. But again, it's also to me, I have more fun just trying to figure out when something's playing. I'll just jump into a pentatonic, assuming that one is in the scale. Like I'll be like, okay, one is in there for sure. So boom, I got one, and then just start trying notes that I would think would be there. If it feels major, you try those first three notes, the 1, 2, and the 3, and if those are in there, that usually means that you're in a major pentatonic will work. So 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. You can get those like if you're playing in C major.
But even when you transpose on the keyboard, I mean, if like right now I'll do C D E F G. Transpose up one.
Yep. And it's
Transpose
confusing
up
with the
two.
meticulous or the visualizer because now that's off. But
Up three. 4.
that's going by half steps. Yeah.
5. Yeah, half steps.
So 5
So
half steps
like
is actually
it
the
goes
4.
from major to I guess minor, or I'm
But
not
the
even.
same five notes. So you're doing the same major five notes. It's just that you're starting in a different key each time. So if you just imagined that, like that first one, that next one would have been. So it's doing all the black notes, but with the F in there instead of that E.
It's a lot harder to transpose.
Right. On the fly.
Yeah, transposing manually. I'm like thinking whole step, half step, like.
But we're also doing it the more difficult way. Also, though, we're doing it by going like when you go to the key that's right next door. That's a totally different thing. Like C has no sharps and flats. D flat has a lot of sharps and flats, so that's like a totally different ball of wax, right? So I mean that's. It's here somewhere. So that's all the black notes, right? And the F and the C.
Technically, when you go up a half step, so I'm doing C right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If I go up a half step,
and you play the same notes,
am I playing C sharp or am I playing D flat?
You're playing C sharp major, so play the same five notes that you just played on the, and then you're transposed up. Yep. Which you're now hitting the C sharp, the D sharp.
Yeah. So that's C sharp major.
Yep.
C major.
Yep.
C sharp major.
Yep.
So now if I was doing D.
And if you went up again, it's D major. Yep.
So like there's D major.
Mm-hmm. And now the easier way for me to usually think about it is to go around the circle of fifths or the circle of fourths, depending on how far we have to go. Because if you're going from C, has 0 sharps and flats, and then G has 1 sharp, D has 2 sharps. So if you're going from, and that's how I can figure out that with D, 2 sharps, it's going to be the F sharp and the C sharp.
You're helping me to understand the circle of fifths more. Okay, so when I'm doing a C major, I got no sharps.
Right.
G has 1 sharp.
1. Yep. And if you go up the actual scale,
D major,
D's 2 sharps.
C, G, D. The fifths starting on C, 5 up, G, 2 sharps.
Yep.
5 up, D, 3 sharps.
No. G was 1 sharp, D's 2 sharps. Yep.
Yes. C, no sharps.
Right.
G, 1 sharp. D, 2 sharps. 5 up from D, A, major, 3 sharps.
Yep.
E, 4 sharps. B, 5 sharps. And then F is 6 sharps.
No, from the B, we actually go to the G flat.
Oh.
And that's got 6. Yeah.
That's when the circle of fifths starts to get funky at the beat.
Right, because now we're going around the other side. So then
now you're flatting.
Right, so that's a G flat, and that's sorry. That B is actually a C flat, I believe, because we already had the B flat, right? So we had G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, E flat, F, and G flat. So that's the one that blows people's minds, is that B that you're playing is actually a C flat. So that's where you're actually playing 6 flats in there, because there's only 5 black notes. So you had 5 that are flatted, and you're actually flatting.
Technically, the flatting starts on the B because we're not actually going to B at that point. We're going to C flat.
In this case, that's in the, let's see, where are we? We're at G flat is the key that we're in right now. So this one has 6 flats, but then we start going around the other side from the G flat. The next one is the D flat, which will have 5. That's 5 flats. Now we're coming back. We're getting less each time. So it's going to be 5 flats, 4 flats, 3 flats, 2 flats, because we're coming back up the other side.
So the first 5 are the sharps.
Going around the C, G, D side, yeah.
Then you hit the B and
you hit the G flat at the bottom. The G flat is like, that's where you go, because the right side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sharps, and then the left side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flats, and then G flat is the one at the very bottom, which is technically 6. But since it's G flat, we're doing 6 flats there at that point.
which still looks like an F sharp to me.
Yeah, it does look like it, but the reason it's important to call it the other way is because there's only one. You won't have an F and an F sharp in the same scale, but you can have an F and a G flat in the same scale.
Yeah, it
So
helps you to
it's
understand
you'll only have
the other
one
notes.
of each letter, and then sharping and flatting as necessary, and that's why that becomes a C flat for that B, because it's technically a B, like you say. That's that shows up as a B. It'll call itself a B, but if you're in just the key of G flat, for example, when you're hitting that note, that's actually a C flat because that's the sixth flat. Anyway, then we're coming back up the other side for after that G flat, because it makes more sense also if you start at the top and come around the flat side and we meet at the bottom again, and then you're switching back. I don't like to switch back and forth at the bottom necessarily, but we're usually dealing with the sharp side or the flat side, not the transition area at the bottom so much.
Well,
But
if I just think of the 1-3-5,
right,
there's the C, G, D major,
yep,
A major, and then after the A, we got the E major,
yep.
and now we're going to the B. But you're saying this is where we start.
Well,
Technically,
B is still this. B is still this side, so this is just up to 5 sharps now.
Ah, and because the fifth on this is this, so do we go to an F sharp or to a G flat here?
And now this next one is a G flat, because now we're flipped around to the
Now
other
we're
side.
flatting. I
Yep.
got it. Man, I've been dealing with that circle of fifths since the 90s in music theory,
Mhm.
and that's the first time it clicked to me that that's how you.
Nice. And that's the importance of even going over it, because I find I relearn. It's like watching a movie that, like, for the 5th, 6th, 8th time, and you're still picking up new details
Well,
from the
it's
movie.
that
Same kind of thing
paradigm
happens.
shift here. This is the paradigm shift because now all of a sudden we're going into flat mode.
Yep. And they're going to start to be less flats as we go around. So that G flat,
So now I'm going to the C.
the D flat. Yep. Because these are all going to be flats now.
Okay, yeah, the D flat.
And again, with the D flat, this is now still five flats. So it's still all the black notes, but now we're not flatting the C or the F.
Wow, this actually makes it easier to go up and down.
Mhm.
I still have to count the half steps. That is something. That is a piano exercise worth doing. Till
Absolutely.
it burns in your brain.
And then the other thing is to go back to the other way. So if you start at the C and you start adding the flats, going from C to F to B flat.
Yeah, see, once I get to this paradigm shifting one, that's when my brain needs to think harder.
And it is at this point new information for you, so it takes time to sink in, but as it does, it'll make more sense and be able to come around that corner easy.
Yeah, I'm not used to approaching beat this way. I'm used to approaching beat this way. B minor.
Yep.
But I do like the sound of this B major. You said it's B major, right? Or is it C flat major?
It's B major. Yep, B major. We don't have to worry about the crazy stuff with the C flat and all that until you're at more than 5 sharps or flats. Then you start getting into the crazy stuff.
Ah, okay. So yeah, it's when I get to this, to the F sharp or G
The G
flat.
flat. it's kind of important, yeah, G flat.
So I go from the B to a G flat. I understand.
And then you're back up the other side to the D flat. But also going from that C, coming around the other side now, if we were to start and even just looking at the chords, like C, and F has 1 flat. And then same thing, you go now to the B flat, has 2 flats. And also you might notice that with all the sharps, when the first one was G, that had one sharp, right? And the sharp was the F sharp. Every key that has sharps in it after that one has that F sharp in it. So it's like that F sharp is the first sharp, and any key that has any sharps in it is going to have that F sharp. The second sharp that they'll all have is the C sharp, and they'll go around in that order every time. So like one sharp, it's got that F sharp. A key with two sharps.
So the first sharp is an F sharp
Right.
on a G.
Yep.
So if I go from the G to a D, there's. Okay, so
C sharp.
F sharp, C sharp.
Yep.
Is it G sharp?
Yep. It's going to follow that pattern. Yep. Exactly.
I understand.
Ah.
F sharp, G sharp, or F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp.
Yep. A sharp, and then.
Okay, so it really is. It's just. I see it.
Now, what would you see after that A sharp?
Fifth from here. Well, we already did the F, so now we have to flat.
Nope. E sharp.
Oh,
And that's where that's going to the
now
other side of it.
You're literally effing with me.
That is. But that's what it would be, and that's why we like, because you technically you can just keep doing that. Where you keep counting a fifth out, and you keep adding more sharps and flats, and then you just start getting to where now that's an E sharp that you're playing there. But you're better off even just with those first 12 keys, where all we're dealing with is up to 5 sharps or 5 flats, and then that one that's by itself at the bottom is the G flat that has the 6, right? That's the only one that we have to deal with that's weird with that C flat going on.
See, and jumping up these fifths. This kind of feels like Asian style chords.
To me, it almost sounds like a detective movie thing. Also, it doesn't have that quite that same whodunit sound to it, but it sounds like it would belong in the same thing. Like as they're searching for clues somewhere, it sounds like that going on.
I'm so clueless.
But yeah, going around in the circle of fifths like that is very good for several reasons. One is that you'll hear it in so many songs because there are progressions, whole progressions even. Like if you looked at I don't know, let's say something like a 2-6-1-5, that going around that box, where if you started with say a D minor in this case, let's say we're playing in the key of C, so D minor is the 2, and then the 6 would be A minor, the 1 would be C, and then the 5 is the G. And if you were to just go around something like that, it's minor, minor, major, major, and it has a really good feel to it. But that's kind of going around that same kind of feel.
So we start on the 2. Start on the D minor.
Yeah.
And then go to the.
We're going to the 6, so A minor. Yep. And actually, normally I would go from there to the C, yeah. And then the G.
To the G. That's nice.
That's one of those epic 4-chord progressions that I always love.
It feels a little unresolved because
we're ending on the 5. Yeah,
we're ending on the 5, but the 5 can always.
One way that we could resolve that. I was thinking we could just, instead of starting with a 2, instead of 2-6-1-5, we could start where we're trying to end with the 5. So if we did, I guess, 1 first. No, doing the ending with the 1, I should say.
Well, starting with the 2 is interesting. Like this does not make me think I'm in C major at the moment.
What if you started with the G, starting with that 5, and then going 5-2-6-1. does sound like the 5 is on resolving too. I'm rethinking it as I go.
Yeah. The
I'm thinking we
5
should
is,
end with 5 and
tricky in
1.
both sides.
Should be the last two things, like the 5 and then the 1, so the G and the C. So we'll maybe start with the A.
Well, yeah.
So start with the A minor, then the D minor. So A minor, D minor, G, C. Yeah.
But considering how unexpected it sounds, using that too, you almost want to make the resolution not sound so much like a resolution. You want it to be kind of. 2-6-5.
Yeah, I like that actually. That's what I was saying. Is ending with the 5-1 is good, and going from that 6 to that 5 actually feels good too.
6, 5. But it's a little predictable, you know that.
Yeah. Going from the
That
5 to the 1.
5-1. I mean, I love the sound of a 5-1, but it's very predictable. Whereas, like starting, that's a little unpredictable. And I do like going to the 5 from the 6.
Yeah.
I mean, it does roll nice.
Then another thing is, what about going right down to that 4 from there? Go to that F.
Oh. The 4 sounds nice. And you can go to the 1 from there.
Yep.
Still predictable, but.
Yep. Because that's the thing, is shuffling around that whole 1-6-4-5 or 1-5-1. Usually I think it would be the 1-5-6-4, let's say. So we were going like C, G, and A minor, and then F. Like that's a whole bunch of songs. Beatles songs and Wagon Wheel, and like all of those are in that same.
That's where arranging, like what we were talking about last week, if I was arranging that progression,
right,
I would do 2 rounds of 1, 5, 6. 1, 5, 6, 4. Now this time.
1, 5, and then 4?
No, 5 to 4.
Yeah. And then you hang in there, or you can walk it down. Yeah.
Double the 4.
Yeah, nice.
Feels like a Beatles song now.
It sure does.
Yeah, so basically I'm just ignoring the A on the 6 on the second part.
Yeah,
That's
I like
how that's how I would arrange.
that's how it feels, like it's not just a repeat of the same thing over and over and over again, because you are breaking it up into an 8-measure phrase instead of just a 4-measure
it's like an
phrase
A
repeated
B.
over.
It's an A B.
Mm-hmm.
A being 1, 5, 6, 4. B being 1, 5, 4, 1.
4. Hanging out on the 4.
But that kind of A-B arrangement, I mean, you can go many measures that way. I think Let It Be, like they pretty much do that.
That's right up that alley.
Freaking way.
I was thinking about Knocking on Heaven's Door as another one that has a similar kind of a do it this way once and then the other way the other time. But in that case, it's more of.
Although with Knocking on Heaven's Door, I feel like I'm playing the same damn thing the whole song.
Right. Because it is like, but instead of just 3 chords going around all the time, it's a 6 chord phrase where you're going around the one time, what, I don't know if it's like, I'm trying to remember, 1-5-4, and the next time it's 1-5-6. Either way, it's let's
Oh,
say,
they were doing it. They were doing it in reverse, huh?
and I want to say we usually play the 6 lower, so it feels like it's dropping down to that one after this one.
Did you drop down to a third there? Because if you drop down to the third on that.
Nice.
If you really want to throw the ear off, you can go from that 6 to a 3.
Minor 3, right?
And that's how you throw a melodic chord in there.
Yeah, I love that 3. And again, that's one where when we were playing the Yahtzee game, just throwing dice to see what progressions to do, because then that was one. If you missed it the other time we talked about it, it was the old pocket Yahtzee, which just has the 5 dice and the shaker.
He's got it handy.
Yeah, it's
I
right
got my
by everything
Yahtzee
else.
right here.
It's right by the rest of my musical instruments. But yeah, that's the old just throw 5 dice and whatever comes up, you try to build a chord progression out of it. And if it's 4 4 4 2 6, it's like okay, you could try that, but usually it comes out with something that you could then rearrange and turns into something kind of cool. Let's give it a try. What do you think? Give it a try. We'll throw one out there and see what we get. No peeking. Got to make sure we get this legit. So 5 dice. 66645 is what I got.
I was gonna say, don't tell me you got Yahtzee.
Almost no. 66645. So that's a whole lot of time on like that A minor, let's say, and you're mixing in an F and a G somewhere.
66645.
So what about in that case? Let's say like 6465 6.
That would be 66645, right?
Well, the thing is, it doesn't have to be in that order, so we can arrange them however we want. So I'm thinking like we do the 6, and then the 4, and then the 6, and then the 5, and then the 6. But then you're going to be doubling the 6 the second time. So that could be like a bridge section or something, but it wouldn't be a whole verse. It just doesn't feel fully,
There's 1 6 4 2 6 5
3 6,
3 6,
and then 1 6. Yeah.
I could work with that.
Now, in this case, that was in the key of C, so that's all. That's not cheating, but that's using the easiest scale we could. Let's say we jumped up to using the key of D.
With me.
What if we did it in the key of D? What chords are we looking with now?
D major.
So D major is the
You
1.
want me to play a 6 here, huh?
Now, the easy way for me to find the 6 is just to go back 3/2 steps to the B. So we know the B minor, then, your favorite, is what you would be doing for that one, the 6.
So D major, then my 6 is the B.
B minor, yep.
B minor. So I'm doing it in first inversion just because it's easier on my fingers.
Yeah, sure.
So there's the 6. The 4 would be G major. No.
Would it be? That's the question. D, let's see, D. So yeah. So 4 would be G, and 5 would be A. They both should be major. It's exercises like that that help to get
Wow,
more
man, that
comfortable
is
with the
it.
different. It's
Dude,
mental
I'm
math. You got to do math to figure that shit out on the
sweating,
fly.
and it's not even hot here.
You didn't even know there was going to be a quiz today.
Ooh, it sounds nice in B too. Well, I mean, technically we're in D major, but starting on the B like that. Yeah, it's a little darker
A little
than
darker, yeah.
starting on the C. Yeah, yeah.
And by starting with that B minor, we could consider the B minor as the 1, and then what would the other ones be? That would be the 6 and the 7. So it'd be like a 1, minor 1, major
Oh,
6,
that's right.
minor 1,
The
major 7.
sixth is the relative minor.
Yep.
So D major. The sixth is the relative minor. Yeah, D minor.
And it's basically just two different ways of describing the progression. We could say that if we were considering
Oh.
D major, then we're talking about a 6-4, 6-5, 6
It's
progression. But
much
if we're
easier for me to play this in first in root positions.
nice. And it actually brings up a good point just in that little progression that we just did there. Like the chords, that's 3 white notes, right? So like a G would be 3 white notes. The other configuration is the A major that you did there, which is the 2 white notes on the outside and a black note in the middle, right? And then the B minor is one of those where you have the black note on the end, but not on the other two. So there's only a few possible configurations.
Yeah, I
You
was
get to-
actually because my go-to is first inversion. Like I just mentally tend to do first inversion to start, but
Sure.
starting in the root position actually is easier to pick it up. And then if I am gonna invert, I got a better feel for it now.
To me, the other thing is that you're in a good position for the scale as well. Like you already know where home is. You already know where the 1, 3, and 5 are right under your fingers right there. So you're already in the right order.
Calibrating with my thumb helps a lot.
And you get that bounce too. Like if you're doing that bounce, you're bouncing with the octave on the bottom, or the root on the bottom. So root and then 3, 5 up top. Nice.
But you get the gist, right?
Yeah, no, that's a nice little section.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
right there, and that's again, we rolled dice to make that up. So that wasn't like saying, what chord would be good with this or what would be good with that. It's just rolling the dice and then taking it somewhere, taking that and putting it into some structure that kind of makes sense. In this case, we had 3 of the same number. Let's try a different one to see what we get.
Yeah, and
one was
again,
a,
I would do like an A-B type of approach to the arrangement where I take that initial dice roll, the 6, 4, 6, 5, and then variate it for the part B where it's like 6, 4, 5, hold. That whole A-B approach, usually the B has that like hold where you play one less chord.
Yep.
Part A has 4 chords going through it. Part B has 3 chords, and the third holds like a resolution on that A.
Another one that would be to take that same progression, like that 6-4, 6-5, 6, but then take that last 6 and make it a 1 instead. So you end up doing 6-4, 6-4, 6-5, 1.
One is D major, huh? No. But yeah, D major. Ooh, very unexpected.
Unexpected, but that's
going to the major. It's pretty though.
And your ear expects it because those are the right notes. They just aren't. They don't feel like they're in the right order.
I almost feel like I want to drop that D down
Down to a C. Oh, da da.
to like the A, just the.
There you go. Another section, sure.
Yeah, I feel like I want to actually resolve on the A, which
And
would
that's where it
be
was kind of just kind of
would
exploring
be
the
the
sounds
five.
of those different
We
keys. Yeah.
yeah, we'd be resolving on the 5 in that case. So that's an Adele song. That's a Roxette song.
It's in
That's
a lot of
how they
places.
do it.
Let's see what we have here. Another roll. This time we get 2 3s, 2 4s, and a 5.
2 3s, 2 4s, and a 5.
Now that could be like a climbing thing, like a 3 4 3 4 5. And we could take the liberty of throwing a 1 at the end the same way we did last time, so that we end up with something like that. Like even
2 3 3s. 4 feels
I like
very resolved there.
it.
If you go
Hitting
to
that
the
1
1.
definitely makes it land. That's what I like about sections like that. Yeah, nice.
3 4 5 1.
Just another random dice roll.
That's what
That's
it
the whole
sounds
thing.
like.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, because that's the thing. A lot of people, it's inspiration. That's the thing that's missing for, like, if you like. I used to sit down with the guitar. I mean, for many years, for decades even, I sat down with the guitar and never progressed anywhere because I just kept sitting down and kept playing the same 3 or 4 songs that I knew, and then maybe a
I'm a
pentatonic lick
noodler.
here and there, and
I'm a
noodle a little
noodler
bit,
too.
and then put it away. And then I never really got anywhere because I wasn't challenging myself. I wasn't trying to learn stuff. I wasn't trying to see what felt like what. But even just doing random stuff like that, like the way you noticed on that other progression, like, oh, that's where they come up with this. Like something will strike you as,
Yeah,
oh, this was from there.
you start to recognize like all the songs that derive from these progressions.
Yep.
You know,
And
at
even just
its
the
simplest,
feel of a certain interval, like, oh, that's what the 6 feels like, or that's what the 3 feels like. You're hanging out there instead of at the root,
and it really makes me focus on my inversions, like whether I'm playing root position, first inversion, or second inversion, because that's all the same chord,
but they all sound distinctly
none of them
different. Yeah.
sound the same.
Exactly.
See, the first and second inversions really don't sound necessarily like starting chords in that kind of approach.
Right.
Playing that wouldn't normally be the way I'd want to start a C major if I'm playing this way.
It also depends who's
If I'm
playing with
playing
you.
this way,
If you're playing just piano, that's one thing. If you're playing with a bass in the band, the bass is hitting that note. So that's where, if you know you're going to be playing with a bass and you know that bass is going to be hitting that root note for you, with C or whatever, then you know that starting in that second or the first or second inversion is better than starting in root position, so you're not hitting that same low note. And it doesn't matter. It's not like it's a bad note to hit. It's just that you know that the bass player is already covering it. So if you're playing in a band situation,
if you want to fill out the sound more, you want to complement it with parts of the chord where they aren't getting played by somebody.
right? Yep. So like bass player covering that root, so you're basically starting with the 3 and the 5, and that upper root is kind of the, if you feel like it, you can hit it, but you don't have to. But it gives that little ring on the top because now you're a couple of octaves higher than where the bass was, rather than starting with that lower note that might muddy things up if the bass is playing higher or if you're playing lower.
Yeah.
But that's only in a situation where you're playing with the bass in the band. If you're not playing with another instrument that's covering down there, then by all means, whether you're playing the first inversion or not. In a lot of cases, what I usually see it as is if you're doing, let's say, if you're coming back to a chord, like we're doing like a 1-4-5, like we were doing before. If we're doing a 1-4-5 in C, just like, and then when you're doing that, like the first time going around like that, we went from the bottom and then worked our way up, just all root position. But to finish off, like finishing on the higher one.
Well, see, I start in this particular case. I'm in root on C, and 4 for the F. It's first inversion's nice and natural. You just move
right
two
next door.
fingers. Feels like a natural way to go from 1 to 4.
And that C rides from the first
inversion.
And the C rides through both chords. That stays.
Yeah,
So
the C
that's
stays,
that
my
continuity.
thumb doesn't have to do.
And then the whole thing just moves up 1 to get to that G in that same inversion. That's where it keeps everything together by using the inversions in that way.
See, now if I tried to go that way with second inversion, that's the second inversion, right, for the F?
Second inversion for the F would have the F on the top, right?
Yeah. And it sounds nice. I mean, it sounds nice between the two.
Right.
Actually, it almost sounds nicer than first inversion. First inversion, it's brighter. You feel like you're going up. But with second inversion, you feel like you're going down. You really hear it if you go back and forth. The F actually feels like it's descending, even though I'm actually playing it higher with my bass hand.
One thing is, if you're doing, let's say we were going to be doing just a back and forth between two things like you were just doing right there. If you start with some pretty low on the keyboard position, like let's say you start with the root position of the 1 on the low end, and you only move up as far as you need to get the next chord, right? So like if you were doing a C as the first one, and then if the next one was going to be that F, you would just move those two like you were saying. And then what's the least amount of movement you have to do to get another C?
Yeah, and that's the
coming
first,
up to
the first inversion is the least amount of movement between those two chords.
But then continuing as you go along, the next time you switch back, keep moving up instead of going back and forth continuously. Like you start down there, then we come to that F right above it. Then we come to the next inversion is the E G C.
I could literally play those two chords, the two different inversion ways, and do an A-B, like. Switching like A, B, and on the B, you go second inversion on the A, you go first inversion, and it almost sounds like you're playing a different part, even though you're playing the same chords.
And if we move up through each of the different inversions, starting with that C down there, like, right? We're in position, and then the second inversion or the first inversion of F, so that C stays on the bottom, like we were saying. Then we go with the E, G, C the next time, and then the F, A, C, and then the G, C, E, and the A, C, F. So you see how we're only moving as much as we need to, but we're constantly moving up. And constantly just going back and forth between those two chords.
Yeah, and you get the feeling of ascension.
Exactly. And by you can just, in that way, even if it would normally sound like it was a descending thing, you can force it to be ascending by switching to the inversions and going up that way. One of the tricks I like using. And it's also a good exercise to recognize the differences and the feeling of going from this to that to this to that, to see, because this one's a 1-3-5 and this one might be a 1-4-6 or whatever in terms of the fingering, or the way that you're trying to stretch to get to the intervals that are there.
Yeah, even when you are trying to learn theory or anything, you still gotta feel it out. The theory kind of tells you, like, these are good chords and combinations to go with each other, but you've got to feel them out to see how they feel to you in different keys, in different inversions, and you'll find that, like, that's how you develop your own style.
Definitely. And speaking of which, we figured out
theory,
some of the
theory won't give you a style.
Speaking of style, how about the rhythms? I think we left off on samba. We were thinking samba in G. That's mighty fast. I'm gonna slow it down. It's down to 100 instead of 120. Almost. Bounce between that G and the C for the bass, right? C and the G, the G and the D. And then the other hand is just doing those little stab chords. And then once you kind of got that, then it's like, okay, well, then you can turn that off and just say, okay, now we can do it ourselves if we wanted to, it's kind of. Then you do the little chord step. And it's good exercise for getting onto the rhythm of what's all there.
I can feel samba now.
See, that's why I like going into like the different ones and try to focus on one aspect of each sound that's there. What else do we have besides samba? Samba 2. That gets back to the bells.
Oh, that's Beastie Boys.
Yeah, that's the one. It was like the most sampled beat ever, right? Or one of the. What do they do with G? Or let's see. Let's do this one with D.
Yeah, I want to say Brass Monkey, but it's not Brass Monkey.
I was gonna say the same. Yeah. Same kind of a bounce. This is on a D though. Bouncing that D to the A. Chords up top. Stabs. You stop the chord going
tried to play samba.
They have multiple variations, but that little bounce in the bass, I mean, that's useful anywhere, really. I mean, that's the kind of thing where whether it's that particular bounce or just understanding and working with a bounce of that kind.
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
helps.
For me to learn a style like that, it's a style that I've appreciated musically forever, but to try to take a stab at it and come up with a feel to get into the groove,
Yep.
starting with just like a nice simple note, kind of just figuring out the bass.
Exactly. Working your way in.
I don't know what the hell I do with my right hand at this point, but at least I've got something to do with my left.
For me, it's the little chord stabs, but the timing is the tricky part. So if I'm trying to do both, just kind of hitting the stabs as I'm hitting the G and bouncing, and then leaving them out on hitting the D. But there's just by leaving them out, I'm making it simpler for myself. So just with the right hand, only hitting when I'm hitting the G in the left hand, and then when I'm hitting the D in the left hand, I'm leaving out the right hand.
Kind
Yeah,
of throwing a little second in there.
exactly. Throwing in that A because that's part of that. Yeah, that's the 5 from that D chord. Very cool. Next one on deck is the jazz samba. Let's try that one in F. Change it to that style. Bounce that F to the C at the bottom. Yeah.
There's some Beethoven, some Mozart in there.
Yeah, feel it out, man. Throw anything in there. I'm gonna grab my coffee while you do that. Right there. Then make it to add new stuff in. I also try to throw in little chromatic moves here and there sometimes to get from somewhere to somewhere else. And if I know where I'm gonna get to, like I'm playing Mercedes F. Start with like just the like F, G, A, C, and D with the pentatonic. the jazz samba. I do like exploring these though, because it really does give a good basis to start something, and something that you might not necessarily have tried before, and just something to feel out different situations, feel out different
Oh
chords.
yeah,
You know.
hey, this is getting me out of my comfort zone and getting me comfortable with it.
Mhm. Nice. It's important.
Yeah,
Important to do that.
I've been trying some of these styles for decades
Mm.
and never like wrapped my groove around it.
What about the mambo? I think we're gonna go with E. Do we dare go with E with this one? That bass. E, A flat, and B. And that little thing at the top is a B and a D flat.
What's that little sax hit?
B and D flat. E mambo.
Feels like a Seinfeld theme.
That drops down to D for that part. He's going with D minor pentatonic. Or, sorry, D. D minor pentatonic. Or F major.
The two chords are
They just go with the D and the F sharp and the A. Which is good for the style. You're basically, that whole bass line is just bouncing the chord tones. And then if we go to E,
I see what you're doing that little key shift there. D, then up to the E, back to the D.
yep. Basically, I was hanging out on either one of them, hanging out for a while, and then like every once in a while, just to make it different, shift it back. So like now it's D. Then we go to E. like that, I'd love to program that in to be able to just have that run for an hour, and just while that's going back and forth, get yourself used to the D and used to the E, because two different, you're dealing with a different number of sharps and flats. So, but they're a very similar feel.
Yeah, it's another good way to practice the scale.
Yep. Four sharps. And three sharps, or two sharps in the D, right? Three. Two.
And that's another one where, like, arrangement wise, you can cut the time of each key in half.
Sorry, big finish. Each-
Arrangement wise, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
cut the amount of time that you play on each key in half and
Yep.
still be doing the same thing, because
Exactly. And the other thing would be to kind of mix it up like that, where sometimes you're doing it fast back and forth, and sometimes you're hanging out longer, and sometimes you just hang out on one key for a while, and then just go to the other one. Make a whole switch, like an A/B section, where it's like,
yeah,
eight
yeah,
measures of this one, and then
it's
eight
hanging
measures of that
how
one.
many measures? 4 measures,
Mm-hmm.
and then 4 measures B. Four measures B. Yeah, so 4 measures, 2 measures. How you variate there, again, lends to arrangement.
And for me, it's like a lot of times when you do something, if it's like 8 measures of the one chord and then 8 measures of the other chord, that's something that's more like a jam song. Same thing if you're going back and forth consistently, but it's always just those two chords. Like you can just go back and forth all day, even a fast switch. If you're going from, let's say, A minor to G, and you just go back and forth between those two all day, right? So you're just in A minor for a while, and then the G. And you could literally just go back and forth like that all day, whether it's really fast or slow. And if you do that in certain styles, like, if we said A minor, and G. Chunks like that long, you're doing kind of almost whole sections. Where you're doing 4 times around with this one, and then you go to the other one, and it feels like I'm jumping the change there.
I can feel it cut in half after you do 2 rounds of 4,
Right.
between both, and then do 2 rounds of 2, and then go back to 2 rounds of 4.
Yeah. Nice.
I like it.
It's a good one. The mumble, in whatever key that was. Yep, jumping right on.
Shifting to the two is a little tricky once you get into the groove.
Yes, indeed.
It almost feels like a, like a dead song where you want to stay in that groove.
Exactly. And that's also where I get sucked into that with these with the rhythms. Like I'll find one that I like, and I just want to stay in that key all day and like not change it by having to like reach down and hit it. Because then when I do change, it's like, oh, now I've got to change every 2 measures or whatever, and it's like it interferes with what I'm trying to do elsewhere. But that's also where having the looper. What I should do
Yes.
is set up my looper down here, which I could just easily put it in the chain with this, and just come out from here to the looper and be able to put in something like do once around whatever with a B like that one with the A minor and the G. Go around one time with that into the looper and then done. Like I could
Yeah.
turn that off and just have it in there all day and even whatever progression we wanted to put in.
Yeah, guys like Jigga Joe are really helping to get my brain wrapped around the looping approach.
Oh yeah,
The,
and I
the
saw
more I
one.
see, the more I see it in action, the more I'm like convincing myself like I need to take this approach.
Yeah, definitely, and even a basic looper. Like I've seen some people that are using ones that have like enormous grids of 40 buttons where you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Um, you don't have to jump in with something that's at that level, but just even getting something where you can start experimenting with the idea of looping and layering, because the layering is really big. Even with drums, like this keyboard is actually sitting on an electric drum kit that I can also use here to play electric drums. If I did loops with that, I could just do like just a couple kick drum things, like doom doom ch, doom 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 ch, and get that in the loop, and then you don't have to do that for an hour. You just you just run that, and you can just have that go for a while and play along with it. Have that be your accompaniment. So it makes it easier or more efficient for practice,
Well,
because you can
And,
just do
and
something there and then focus on playing along to that.
and for those who aren't like layer inclined, like they're not thinking instrumentation approach, looping helps you to start thinking of
Mhm.
layering,
Absolutely.
possibly with different instruments. I mean, the good looper players, they don't just play one instrument.
And again, whether it's the kind of rhythms that they have built into a keyboard like this, or whether it's jam tracks that you just find on the internet or whatever, just taking some things like that. I prefer jam tracks over just full songs, because without the lyrics and the vocals in there, it's less confusing. You're able to more easily focus, because the idea is to try to focus your ear on each instrument. Like you could hear them all the time, but if you actually work on honing in on one of them, like you say, what's the piano doing right now, and you try to focus on what's that doing and what that's doing, and pulling it out of the mix for your ears, and then say, okay, now what's the bass doing, and try to pull that out. And after you listen to each individual part separately, then when you listen to the whole thing again, it sounds different now, because everything, you're able to immediately kind of shift your focus from this instrument to that instrument depending on who's doing what at that time in the song.
Yeah, and
And it's,
that's
it's
what
really good ear training.
I try to focus on, like one instrument
Mm-hmm.
at a time as I'm trying to figure out a part.
Yep.
I zone in on whichever instrument helps me to narrow in on the key.
Mm-hmm.
Bass.
Oh
If
yeah.
I was gonna pick one instrument that I would want to zone in first on, it's usually the bass.
The bass is usually pretty simplistic, or at least more simple than an instrument that can do full chords all the time. It's going to be harder to pick out necessarily what's going on, but with the bass, you're listening for one note, so like
Yeah,
that's an
it
A.
helps me to
That's an E.
get the feel of the bounce. It helps me to get the feel of the scale.
Yep.
Whatever chord might be playing. Um, that's the instrument that makes it easy to get started on
And a lot of times the
riff.
bass will also be focusing on the root, the five, and the octave, which again, you're free to use a lot more than that, but you can get a lot of mileage out of the root, five, and octave with a bass. So that tells you where you are, and it doesn't tell you necessarily whether you're playing majors or minors, but you can get into where you have the root. You know where the root is, you know where the 5 is, and as long as you can follow that around, you're in better shape than you would be otherwise. You're able
Yeah,
to at least
that
get the
is how
roots in
you like do a lot of your bass lines, huh?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Exactly, and sometimes also the 5 underneath that root. So like when you get down to that low root, go to the 5 under it also.
Oh, the 5 under the root?
Yep.
That would be G.
So sometimes even having that C in the middle and having those G's as the outer one. So you go like up to a G, down to a G, and then back to the C in the middle. Kind of gives you that bounce around. Yeah. You get a lot of mileage out of that. Now, the other thing I'll add in from a bass is the flat 7. And that's not always gonna work.
Fucking with me.
But that's a whole, just a whole,
okay,
just a whole step back from the root. So basically, you know, if you're playing in
B. If I'm playing in C at the moment.
If you're playing C, it's B flat actually. Whole step back. B flat instead of the B.
Oh,
That B would be the major 7, and the B flat would be the minor 7. But it would also be used in dominant. But it's also just with basses, I like to do the root octave 7/5. So kind of like what was that? Yours in C?
Yep, C.
So yeah, like root. So like C, C, B flat, G.
Oh, that's groovy, man.
Yep, you can get a lot of mileage out of that too on bass.
I could write a rap song.
You could do funk all day on that too. But those are the notes that you would use the most. You know, you're going to bring in the 3 every now and then. Also, you know, you can, and that's where you get arpeggios going. Like if you're,
Yeah, the 3 kind of. Feels better with that 7th though.
yep. Now we're using the major 3 and the minor 7. So this would be a dominant chord. So we're using C dominant essentially. Instead of what would be like if it was a C major 7. That's got that B in there that you were talking before. We're technically using the major 3rd and the minor 7, so that are the flat 7s. That would make this.
Oh, that's actually a big part of that blues.
Yes. Now, the other part of that blues would be the F sharp. That's the blue note, is that flat 5. And you don't have to use it all the time, but it's one of those notes that's in the allowable, you know, in that same structure. But a lot of times I would leave it out anyway for, just like you were saying, the root 3, 5, and 7. And that actually puts us also into, instead of C major, since we have this B flat in there, we're actually dealing with C mixolydian at this point.
Yeah, isn't this like considered like a blues scale? Like
Well, when we add that F sharp in there,
yeah.
that's adding in the blue note, so that is definitely the flat 5. But before that, if we're saying like C mixolydian, let's say, would be just all the white notes with that B flat. So that's technically the key that we're in here by doing that, using that B flat, which puts us actually in the key of C. We're related to C major, or sorry, to F major, playing. We're playing F major notes, but we're playing from C to C. The other way to look at it would be it's C major, but with a flat 7.
So if I'm playing F major,
Do,
it's
do, do, do.
technically
Do, 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 do.
the same as that mode.
C Mixolydian. Yep. Those two are related. The way to look at that more generally is that we were talking about C as being the 1 chord, right? So the 1, and then having the 5 chord.
So
would be G.
F, you said C.
Right? We were playing a C Mixolydian.
C Mixolydian
Was related to F major. Yep. In the same way that G Mixolydian would be related to C major.
F is the 4th of the C, so is that the same case in any start? Like if I start with D major,
We're looking at it
would
looking
I
at
go
it the
to
other way.
4th
Yeah.
for the same kind of.
Same relationship, yeah. Except you would want to look at it the other way usually. You're looking at it where instead of saying that F is the 4th of C, look at it as C is the 5th of F in this case. Because
So
we're saying that
I could learn some of my Mixolydian scales and by relating them
Yeah.
to the 4th.
the 5th. The 5th. See that's where if we were playing in C major, like let's go back to instead of playing in F, because that might be messing you up there that we're starting in F. So let's play with C major as the 1. So we're using all just the white notes for C major. Then for Mixolydian, we would go to the G. Because now instead of G having 1 sharp, we're flattening that F sharp. And so it's all white notes G to G.
Okay.
So that's G Mixolydian related to C major.
G's the 5th of C.
Correct.
There. So
Exactly.
if I do play the 5th
From any key, yep.
from
You can
any
play
key,
that
I am
Mixolydian.
I'm going from the normal scale to a Mixolydian scale.
Any major scale. So if you were playing in D
Major
major,
scale. Gotcha.
because if you were playing in a minor scale, it would be related differently because of that order of which ones are majors and minors.
Well,
but
hey,
you can
this
still
is a
always
start.
relate any. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm starting to visualize it like any major scale. If I start my major scale and I go up a 5th and I play from the 5th with the same notes as I would in my major scale, I am technically playing a Mixolydian scale at that point.
Yep.
So
You are now playing
if I
that
wanna
root
learn
scale.
My Mixolydian scales, I really need to be thinking the 5th down from the Mixolydian scale is my actual key. So if I'm in G and I want to do G Mixolydian,
Yep.
then I am playing a C major scale, and that's Mixolydian G.
Yep. G Mixolydian.
versus C regular C
Now,
major.
and now if G.
Glenn, that's a good one to cram in my head. I am seeing
yep.
the relation.
And the thing I like about Mixolydian in particular is that's a good one. Jerry Garcia does a lot of stuff in Mixolydian. A lot of his solo stuff, the positioning feels natural for the moves, like the lines that he does feel natural in Mixolydian position. So a lot of times when I hear a dead song, I can just try to find my way to where Mixolydian feels right. And then that turns out to be where a lot of the stuff just falls out of my hands at that point. Like I can just, boodle doodle doodle, like that's those notes right there. That's the fat 3 strings in Mixolydian are 1 3 5 1 3 5 1 3 5. They're all the same. So you can just go boodle doodle
like
doodle.
Mixolydian lends itself more to certain players, like guitarists.
Oh yeah, certain sounds, not necessarily different players, but more there's a signature sound to the mode. And when you just start running up and down it, for example, if you did scale exercises all day to feel like really get it under your fingers and feel comfortable with it, that's another important one, is not to just run scale exercises from the lowest note to the highest note and back again, because it's easy to just fall into that trap where you just do that as your exercise every day and you're getting it ground into your head. But if you ever go to use it in a song, do you end up doing that same thing where you're just always doing that same line, starting at the bottom note, going up to the top note and coming back down? It's going to be the same solo or the same move every time. So it's important to just get comfortable with the structure of it. So bouncing around, like, maybe go up the whole thing like a ladder, but then alternate on the way down, do 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 do, like stuff like that, to try to get a feel of what's really exactly. And and then doing it in different keys, because like that's in one key, and then if you say, okay, what if it was in a key that had 3 sharps, like that makes it completely different than it was originally, and that makes you have to think about it on the fly, which makes it more challenging.
That's another good exercise there. Just going up thirds.
Oh yeah.
Still feel like I'm missing one progression there. Ah,
There
yeah,
you go.
I am missing one.
Now another one that I used to do on the guitar a lot are what I would call 3-ups and 4-ups, where if I was doing that same thing, like C major scale, instead of just running the whole scale up, I would do. So those would be 3-ups, and then 4-ups would be the same idea, but four at a time.
Oh, you're going 4?
The first time I did 3, and then the second time I did 4. Because that's 2 different exercises, but yeah.
Sounds like you had less on that go up with the 4.
Yeah, I actually stopped when I got my pinky to the C instead of going all the way up to the. Instead of going
Oh,
all
so
the way
you
up to the
went.
C. I cheated.
No, no.
Basically. I went all the way up to the G, I guess, so from the C.
Ah, you jump from the G to the C. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing. Do that again, slowly.
So I'm just doing 4 notes in a row, starting with C, and then D, and then E, and then F, and then
So
G.
once you get to that G and it goes to the C.
But what you were doing was actually the right way to do it, which is to go all the way up until your index finger is on that C, or the last note is. Like you're actually going all the way up to that, because then you're actually going the whole octave. But again, this is C major, so it's not a big deal. It's when you're trying to learn the different, the more complicated scales. Because like if we were doing this
and part of this exercise I'd be doing to get comfortable with the scale, and
Oh, yeah. And the
other
fingering.
half of it is finding a timing where
Right.
the way you condensed it and ended on the G, you found the timing point where
where if we were playing a song and that was a solo, that's where we were going to end. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's important too, getting a feel for how long a measure is, how long you're going to be in a particular spot or situation, and when you're coming out of it, and where you're going when it's done, is another important thing.
Yeah, that's why I need to do both traditional piano exercises and untraditional piano
yeah.
exercises. Especially if I ever want to learn to solo, it's the untraditional exercises that are going to help me learn to solo.
Now, some of the ones that we saw with Nari Soul, remember we were watching some of her videos a while back. One of the exercises that she liked was just a chromatic exercise, but again, kind of similar to what the other guy was talking about with the 3 fingers. Oliver Prane, when he was talking about the 3-finger motor exercises.
Oh, the hand guy, yeah.
The hand guy. But
the most beautiful hands on the internet.
when with Nari, she was just saying, just even doing chromatics up and down, where you're literally hitting every single key on the keyboard, but just using 3 fingers and getting comfortable, or even just using 2 fingers and getting comfortable. Using 3 is better though, because then you won't necessarily fall over them as easily. So you're more or less doing thumb and then an index finger, and then if it's going to be awkward, you get that middle finger involved. So like E, F, G, I'm doing thumb, index, middle, or E, F, F sharp. I said. But before that, I'm just doing 1, 2, 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I
One,
see.
two,
You're
one,
doing
two.
you're doing the 1, 2 while you're dealing with the half steps with the black
Right.
keys.
Right.
You probably are dealing with the threes whenever you're dealing with B to C or E to F, right?
Correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm doing.
I can see
Because
it.
that way you're ending up where you want to be. But actually, no. What I'm doing is 1 2 1 2 1, and I'm using the 1 2 on the E F, and then I'm using the 3 for the F sharp.
For the F sharp, yeah,
Right.
that's what I was just thinking. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
feels natural.
Yep, yep.
And
And then keep running that up.
yeah, using the middle finger for the F sharp is much more comfortable than trying to
Instead of tripping over the other ones on the way.
trying to move your thumb to start on the F sharp, because all of a sudden now you're out of alignment.
And now try to go up or down a couple of different octaves and see how that feels.
Oh my god, I got it.
And then back
That
down, yeah.
opens up.
A
I
lot of stuff.
understand. Well, yeah, yeah. The thumb pointy is, if you're gonna try to go fast, the thumb pointy really helps you jump across a lot of these half steps. And just
And since
using that middle finger for those awkward points in the keyboard really does help you to just keep going half steps.
And since it's all chromatic, it doesn't matter what key you're in. It's literally the same moves all the time because it's always chromatic.
I wish I had understood that when I was doing the worms.
Oh, yeah.
It was all fucking half steps.
And in this case, if you wanted to get from the C to the A flat for whatever reason, you can just, and you're there. So it's like you just do a little move like that, and it just feels natural. It goes pretty quick, and it's just by using that same little pedal system or same little motor system and just focusing on where you're trying to get, where you want to end up.
Now going backwards.
And again, it's whatever feels comfortable. So it's focusing more on which way feels right. For me, I think I'm actually using mostly my middle finger and my thumb.
It works backwards. Okay, so I gotta. It's that pointy, like going down. If I'm starting. Oh no! I gotta get my.
For me, I'm only getting my index finger involved on that F and the C, if that makes sense. I'm using the middle finger and the thumb to rock on the way down.
Yeah, while I'm going down. I have to think about it a little bit more.
What's happening, Jeff?
It feels so natural going up.
Mm-hmm.
That really does feel natural. Now going down, remembering to hit with my pointy on that D sharp.
Well, see, what I'm actually doing is, like, let's say if we just went from the B to the F, let's say from the B down to the F, and we only use the thumb and the middle finger. So from the B down to the F, and I'm just rocking the thumb index or thumb middle, thumb middle, thumb middle, thumb. Right? But now instead, when we get to that F is where I'm going to use my index for the first time. So I'm going to go thumb middle the whole way down, and then that's my index finger to get my thumb on the E, to go back to the thumb and middle, and then index on the C. So I'm only using my index finger on the C and on the F, and everything else is going to be thumb and middle.
Oh, okay. Wait, you're not using the index for the B?
Nope, I'm doing it the other way, where I'm using the index on the C. So when I'm coming off that D flat, this is 3 2 1. So my thumb is on the B, my index is on the C, my middle finger is on that C, or C sharp or D flat. And then it's all middle and thumb from there. And then index again on the F. So it's kind of the opposite of going up. I never really noticed that. I do it the other way on the way up. turns into chords down there.
That's a good hand exercise.
Oh yeah,
And
for
also,
both hands actually.
yeah, brain exercise, because I don't normally conscientiously think about which finger I'm using. I'm just so used to using certain fingers for certain things
Mm-hmm.
that I've never focused on like a roll down like that where
Mm-hmm.
middle thumb, middle thumb, middle thumb, index,
Yep.
middle thumb, middle thumb, middle thumb, index.
And the importance of rolling through that so that that index doesn't feel like the stopping point, but that you
Well,
go right
especially
from
if you're
that.
going up and down.
Yep.
Oh, and going up and down, I really got to do that slow.
And do a couple of octaves also. So you're going down like like at least 2 octaves, and then back up at least 2 octaves, and you'll feel the whole thing get smoother as you do it.
Oh, that's going to be a good exercise.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that'll really help me to get those rolls up and down, because that's why I can't solo. Is like I really can't roll up and down fast.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of what I've seen with some of the people, like I see some amazing keyboard players play, and watching the way that they do a lot of surrounding a note. Like if they wanted to end off on an E, they might come from the F to the E flat to the E, and the way they come off of that flat to the, it's kind of a grace note. So it's getting comfortable with doing little stuff like that. Little things like that make a real difference to the emotive content of playing, because playing notes is one thing, right? Like being able to know, okay, this is a C, this is a G, whatever chord or whatever note you're playing, but being able to play with feeling and having the space in there and little nuances like that, and just being able to hit things like whether it's a or whether it's a, you gotta be able to have some dynamics at the point where you get really loud or really soft as you need to. All those can really factor into shaping a song completely differently than it might have otherwise seemed.
Hey, Jeff Dixon in the house. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, what's up, man? He's chilling. Good call.
Yeah, see, usually if I'm soloing or anything, I'm like really simple.
Yep. I'm usually all about the pentatonics and trying to get places. That was one also where that pedal system that our friend Oliver had gone into with those 3 fingers. That first time he was talking about the, trying to remember which one it was. I think it was.
Oh, you're
So like
up there.
yeah, that's why I'm like leaning this way. But D, F, G, and then G, A flat, A, and then A, C, D.
Is your keyboard reversed? Is that like I see you playing lower on the camera, but you're actually playing higher.
This is lower.
Why?
I'm coming towards the camera as higher.
Holy
It's
crap,
2 different cameras though.
The staff. Wow, that really does.
It jumps way high, yeah. Basically, above the that last line is the F above, an octave above C, middle C.
Yeah. Which
This is my middle C, so yeah.
Which F is the top clef?
That's 1 octave above my middle C.
F5?
F.
F5?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. You're telling me that all these 6, 7, and 8 is on my 88 key?
They're way.
You couldn't even notate that.
Well, what they would do
having
is they
to
would
put up a whole nother staff.
Well, what they end up doing is they'll take these notes, right? These they'll leave with that little extra staff like you see. But once you start getting off the page where you can't see it, they would take these same notes that you're seeing here and just put a bracket around it with a little 8 VA next to it, telling you that it's an octave above.
Oh,
so they're saying
they just put a little.
But these they would use
what, right next to the clef.
Basically, any of these notes from this one up to the octave on that, I guess.
Ridiculous. Like
They just take that whole octave there, and they would just put a little bracket around it, a little dotted bracket actually, that says 8VA, I believe it is. But it's basically telling you that's an octave higher, and that way you know that you're going all the way up to like way beyond where you normally would. Because actually, my highest C is like off the top C7.
I can't see it.
Right. But this one even is pretty high already. But yeah, they would just, they can notate it saying it's way up there, just like they would with the low notes. Like these are actually not bad. These are not that far off the bottom of the clef, so
Yeah,
these
well,
would be fine.
you can only go so low.
So our middle C is right here. So yeah, it's just 2 octaves down from there, and they fit on the staff. But going from the middle C up, 2 octaves up, and you're there. But then there's a third octave. Yeah, it's probably not even C0. I think that's C2. C2, C3, C4 is middle C, C5, C6, C7. So yeah, from C2 to C7. So there is, 2 more octaves of C below that down to the C0 if you really wanted to get into it. But most of those would sound pretty floppy.
How many keys is that?
This one is a 61.
61? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you probably are starting at C2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. See, but it's nice to have.
Basically, yeah, I've got 6 full octaves, and on a piano sound, it does sound good. Like with me,
Yeah, there you go. Your C is my C1. So this is C0. Oh yeah, if you really want to cheat.
I bend it a little bit down, or a little up off the top.
I
Bending
actually
that
got
stuff
an
up.
extra C.
That's right.
Squeaky.
You got an extra octave on each end.
I have never hit that key. It's probably one of the only 3 keys on this keyboard that don't have my fingerprints.
Well, now it does. You went and messed it all up now. That's one of those things where what I have seen with some of the bands I work with, they need, for a Doors song, they need that rain and the thunderclaps for Riders on the Storm, or they need, things like that. If you have a couple of notes, like the very bottom of your keyboard or the very top of your keyboard, you could program a couple of those with a key split and say, use the key split, and then down there I want a helicopter noise on 1, C1, and I want a, rain on C2 with sustain, and I want this one, the notes that you're not going to use in your actual playing, whether it's the bottom or the top. You could do a key split and program that.
I used to love splitting my patches. Back in the 80s and early 90s, when I had one keyboard, setting up patches with key split and being able to do the bass and maybe have like a string sound and do the right hand and maybe have a piano sound was useful as hell.
Now, not only the key split,
now
but also
I
the combine.
have multiple keyboards, and it's
Right.
much easier just like having a keyboard with the patch
Dedicated
that
for
I
each.
want. And little bit of this is less work than trying to set up those split.
I really did like the, in addition to the key split, the key, I guess the merge or the layering, where you have, a percussive something on the front and then a string sound behind it. That sort of thing. I love those blends of sounds, yeah. I want to say it was, on this one it's actually called layer. So I can have, that's a string layer and a...
Yeah, if you get the right kind of patches, like I've got this one here that's such a great blend of, I mean, it kind of has a piano in it too, but because of the strings, I can't sustain it. But
Right.
it does have a nice, like it's got a piano, it's got a string.
That's exactly what this is. This is a piano with strings mixed in.
It's just a nice full patch.
Yeah. I like the strings for the hold. And the piano for that upfront percussiveness. But also sometimes I'll do that with an organ sound. Do the same kind of thing, get like a percussive organ or a percussive rock organ as the front end sound, and a voice for the end instead of strings for the tail, or a horn section, something like that. Like, mixing different layered, types of layers together can sound really cool.
And as a keyboardist, it's good to try those different patches because it changes the way you stab at the keyboard. I do not play with string sound the same way I play with the piano.
And there's a cello. There's a piano.
Oh,
Add
that's
some
a nice
beef.
cello. I thought I
And that's
had
with
a
the
nice
piano.
cello.
Cello's a very inspiring sound.
I really have found a new appreciation in the last couple of years. Cellos, violas, all brass. Now that today's samplers have gotten so good with these instruments,
Hmm.
I never could appreciate horns with the old school samplers because they always sounded synthy to me and didn't have the natural horn sounds.
With
And
this one,
strings, they were pretty good with. Like going back to the 90s, Roland was making some killer string sounds, but today's string samples, like the violas and the cellos, are just, it's hard to tell anymore whether you're hearing a human player playing it or it's playing off of a sampler.
with this trumpet, on if you just play black notes, for example, and if you use the pitch bend on the A flat and on the C flat, or sorry, the D flat, A flat and the D flat. So like,
Oh, that is a good
so like this pitch bend, I really like it because it's just kind of
Yeah, that's
bends into.
a nicer trumpet than I think I have on this bass.
I like the trumpet sound. I was messing with that with the James Brown stuff I was doing yesterday, and it was just hitting all those bends or hearing an actual trumpet player play and trying to match some of the bends that he did and figure out some of the moves that he was doing. It was very cool.
Damn, my trumpet feels all
He's
puny
got
next
trumpet
to
envy.
yours.
Trumpet envy. I
Well,
was doing
if I,
all black notes is what I was working on.
I'll tell you this though. If I load up Alien,
Oh yeah.
the
Oh.
sampler that I
Oh,
use
yeah.
when I'm composing,
Yep.
Alien
That's got the
has
sounds. Yeah.
monster brasses, but my Phantom, I mean, that's a wimpy trumpet. There's a muted trumpet. It's got like weird velocity.
What about trombone?
Oh, trumpet. There's my trombone on the Phantom.
That's trombone.
Yeah, it doesn't have as good response on the wheel either.
And this one's not even a wheel. This is a button that I just have to push.
Oh, but I can actually adjust my velocity. You know how my pitch wheel
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
forward? Check
Yep.
this out.
There you go. Emphasis. So you can play very softly and push with that.
Yeah, that's kind of useful.
The volume swells, yeah.
Ah, okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
My
and that was where
tuba.
the trumpets and the trombones were the first two I looked at. But then there's tuba.
Yeah, see, that's my but that's why, like, I got this Roland in 2008, and not to say that I wasn't impressed with the brasses, but they weren't good enough where I felt like, oh, I'm gonna find a use for this sound in my mixes. with the Halion sampler, when I started using that, doing all these remasters and everything,
Mhm.
and getting like really natural sounding brasses, that's what made me start appreciating horns. And
Nothing like good horns, man. And that's the thing is, playing with some bands now that have really good horn sections to them, it really has given me a new appreciation even beyond what I already had
yeah, it
for
makes
the
me
way the
want
horns sound.
it makes me want to have a four-piece brass in the next
Yeah,
band.
yeah. And it makes me want to cheat when I write songs. Be like, okay, I'm gonna write a part for write a part for a trumpet, write a part for a sax, write a part for a trombone.
Well, the nice
Get them
thing,
all.
if you do have like the brass section, you can arrange guitar parts
Oh yeah,
and some of the bass parts to brass. Like a four-part brass actually covers a good chunk of the instrumentation you might want.
that one's just called brass.
Yeah. Well, that one's a good one for funk.
There's synth brass.
Now, synth brass is where the Roland actually was much
Nice.
cooler because
Swells, yeah.
synthetic brass you you're not so caught up that like, oh, does it sound like an actual trumpet. The nice thing with synth brass is you're really just looking for the stab.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. That almost has a harpsichord built in, almost. Feels like.
Yeah, I know. And I mean the beauty with this one, like I have 8 different '80s brasses. Those were 2 of them. Like this is 3. A lot of variety between them. I mean, these are the brass sounds you heard through the '80s. And then there's '90s brass, which just sounds like one of the '80s brasses.
It's like 80s brass, but complains more because it's older.
But my favorites when it comes to like the rolling keyboards is the saws. Like that's super saw. But my favorite saw is there's one in here.
Something like that. Synth brass.
Here's my dual saw. This was the kind of sound back in the late '80s and early '90s with my Casio. These saw strings. I love the
Nice.
sound of. And that's not even cranked up.
The saxes here aren't that good. I'm not impressed by the saxes.
See, that's the other one with Halion. Don't care for my saxes on the Phantom, but the Halion saxes are some of the best samples that you can get out of that sampler.
Bassoon's pretty good.
And bassoon is not one of those like horns you typically think of It's like French horns, you know, they're specialty horns.
Yeah, clarinet.
Now, clarinet is another one that, with the Halion sampler, it's another one where I was like, oh, I need to use this instrument more because once you do have a good sample of something,
Hmm.
you want to.
Yeah.
And wins when it comes to samplers over the last 20 years, the improvement on wins going into the 2000s has been phenomenal. Got to give Roland credit there because they came out with the Aerophone and started
Oh
to,
yeah, yeah.
you know, this thing really translates breath into
Hmm.
MIDI properly. And people are playing on the Aerophone, playing saxes, clarinets, and all sorts of woodwinds and brass, and they're
What's
getting the kind of expression.
what was the name of the little keyboard, the little tiny like 1 octave, 2 octave keyboard that you use your breath to control it? Is it like a melodica or something like that? Maybe.
Yeah. The melodica, you have to breathe in. It's almost like
Exactly.
a
That's how you're actually activating it. And somebody at the open jam on Tuesday, the guy who was running the jam, like somebody's doing a song and he just breaks that thing out. He like breaks it
oh
out, plugs it
shit.
in like with a patch cable. So like it had a cable like you plug it in like you would plug in a guitar or a bass, and just starts blowing it. And you can be very emotive, like, very dynamic because you can be very quiet with a little bit of breath, be a
Yeah,
lot louder with
there's
a pushing harder.
there's a couple of guys on BandLab that that specialize. One, his name is literally Mikey Melodica.
Nice,
Check him
nice.
out. He's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
badass at it.
The last person I saw play one was actually cousin Jeff at the campsite a couple
It
years
sounds
back.
almost, it feels almost like a hybrid of like an accordion because it does
Exactly.
have that kind of air um, approach to how it produces the keyboard sounds,
Sure. It
but
also
it's a very
forces
different way
you
to play it.
it also forces you to put the brakes in your music because you have to breathe. So it's as if you're playing a wind instrument where you can't just go all day because you actually have to stop and and get some air and then continue. So
Now
it
all of a
does put those
sudden
in
you're
as
not
well.
just pausing for words, you're pausing for chords.
Yep. And that's another reason why when people are learning how to solo or something, sometimes people get really caught up in just too many notes and just complete throwing out notes, 16th notes all day or 30-second notes or whatever, too many notes sometimes. But that's where they'll tell you try to sing your solo or hum along with, verbally what you're playing, and where you're forced to take a breath, stop your playing there, that gives you a little bit of a break in there. So you are actually putting some thought into the space as well as the notes.
See now, if you're playing something like that, or you know some of these like wind instruments,
Mm-hmm.
I would think that would help you to get better pitch. Like if you're a singer and you happen to play like a wind instrument, I would think that would help to improve your pitch singing because of
All of the breath control stuff for sure. Yeah.
yeah what you're doing with your breath plus the fact that like what you're hearing with that breath. It's just like when you're singing and you hear yourself inside your head, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that inner voice that Chris Lipe is always talking about,
Oh yeah.
you know. um, Even with the wind, I think you can feel that in your head
Hmm. Definitely. And
because
that's
of
the
the
thing is
physical
different.
process.
And different sounds and different exercises. The explorations that we're doing here, what I like about it most is that different sounds will totally inspire different things. And like we were talking before, with the pentatonics, for example, if we took something like a clarinet sound and used that same example we used before with the E, F, A, B, and C, and it sounds very exotic, but it's still only 5 notes, so it's pentatonic in that term. But I don't know what scale I would even call that. But I do like the fact that it has those two little notes next to each other, and working on landing on each of those different notes and seeing how the phrase feels. When you're going through all the different notes and land on the fourth one all the time, like, or then try landing on the second one all the time. That kind of thing. Just exploring where all the different sounds come from and how everything kind of inspires a different feel.
Oh, I think you inspired me to write a piece.
Ah, hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Got that Tom
thinking
and
like
Jerry sound to it.
Stravinsky, Rite of Spring.
Nice. Inspiration's good wherever it comes from.
Oh, anytime I'm hearing like these classical like type instruments.
What about a low piccolo?
Yeah, I don't really have the only piccolo I have in here is the General MIDI one.
Right.
Apparently, the piccolo scared Roland.
That's the old
Oh, I do
flute.
have multiple. There's a piccolo with vibrato.
That's got some nice breath sound to it, yeah, as well.
Yeah, it's got a little bit more breath. This
How
is the
does the
regular piccolo.
how do your pitch and mod wheels affect that?
Left and right, it's pitch.
Sounds like more vibrato when you push on that.
Yeah, up and down.
Or maybe the
Doesn't.
speed of the vibrato?
Oh, on the piccolo vibrato, the forward and backwards does
More breath, intensity?
does do level,
Nice.
yeah. I
And
wish
those
this thing would pull back now. Now that I know I can pull it forward, I want to pull it back.
Well, is it broken that doesn't pull back, or it just doesn't have a
No,
feature for that?
no. It's left, right, or I mean it's centered, and
Right.
I got a left and a right, but it also can go forward and
Right,
go
right.
left and right. So like
Gotcha.
if I go forward,
I thought it also had a back. I thought it was a full four-way.
no. I can go forward, but it snaps back.
Gotcha.
Just like left and right snaps to the center,
Sure.
forward snaps back to the center, but there's no back to it. Right? If it was a four directional mod wheel, damn, I can't believe I'm actually wanting one considering I never use it.
You
But
never even knew it was a three-directional mod wheel.
well, going back now, like knowing this is what I get when I go forward,
Yeah.
I would love to have it be able to go back and
Well, to me, knowing that it doesn't go back, my thought is if you start by playing as lightly as you can,
yeah.
and
I can
then
do it with velocity.
pushing, you can get more intensity out and then come back as low as you started.
Yeah, exactly. So if I hit it really soft, like that's.
And I bet that's really hard to
But-
do, like with the actual instrument and wind.
Yeah, it's hard to hit this soft, that soft. Oh my god, I'm tripping. Hey,
Pan
keeper.
flute.
That's a nice one. Pan flute? Is that the
Yep, pan flute.
Yeah. That's one of the ones on here that I'm happy with too. Is like this is the regular flute, the attack flute.
Nice. That's got a good
Feels
up front.
like they're
Yeah, a lot of
trying
times it
too
doesn't.
hard. Although the alto flute is nice. But it does have a whole bunch of pan flutes. This one's an Andes,
Oh,
which
nice.
has a nice little echo to it.
Yeah. Now, what about those notes we were hitting before? The E, F, B, C. Maybe a little bit more exotic with the exotic instruments. Nice. almost electrified.
Here's the
Hey, Kiefer.
panpipes. A little more strike to it. Man, that's a strong hit.
That's where this one's blown bottle.
But do you have a Zampona?
I have a Shakchi. And a whistle.
Oh, ocarina. Can't have a win without an ocarina.
Oh, gotta have that. Yep. Okay. The ocarina. This one now I found square wave.
See now, I would mix that with like a harpsichord. That sounds like that really work nice when you get the right or a clav.
That's the clav. Oh, that's got some serious Pink Floyd sound to it right there.
Yeah, doesn't it?
That's a Hey You everywhere.
Yeah, everybody's got a little Pink Floyd in them.
A little saw wave.
A little mix of strings and harmony. Clavs. Clavs is another one. You want to get into funk? You gotta have some good clavs. That one almost sounds like a bass.
Mm-hmm, it does.
Like a good bass with some, stab to it. Oh, phase. I love how this phase just goes nuts too. If you do it right, especially.
Meow, wow, 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 wow. Yeah. Good stuff.
That's where I like using these pulsating. For that riff.
Oh. That one's bass plus lead. It doesn't sound very bassy up here.
And the cool thing with some of these is they are tempo sensitive. So, like if I bring the tempo up to 120,
They pulse right at that speed. Yeah, yeah.
you can just feel it out till you get it right where you want it. 110. Dum 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 dum. Tell me you don't hear some drums coming in there and kicking. Dum 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 dum.
New age. Warm pad.
Oh,
And that
my
would be a good one as a
boxes.
backup layer. Hmm?
See, surprisingly, I don't have as good as boxes as that Casio either. It's nice and breathy, but don't feel like it's an ah.
Yeah. This one is
But I do
the
have some
warm
good
pad on the
jazz.
back of
Yeah,
the
check
warm
out
pad
this
on the
one.
back of the piano sound.
Oh, and I got a scat quartet. That's just one note.
Nice. So you just bounce on that one note all day.
These are the ahs, but was
Which
never really impressed with the. I mean,
Oz
Roland
news.
had
That's a
better
good swell on
Oz.
that though.
Well, it does, but like they had better Oz and voices in their '90s since my Roland D50 had a cleaner. Ironically, they call this the new Oz. That's the ooze. It doesn't really ooh it for me. Choir Oz. See, a lot of these voices leave something to be desired. Although it does have this one nice patch called Lost Voices that if you use it right, it has its own kind of swell in it.
Nice, nice. This one's called F tremolo for some reason.
Oh, that's
Reverse
tough.
echo.
I just burped.
Excuse me. The synth pad's got some weird stuff. I like it.
Yeah, I do have some decent pads. It's a little stabby. Oh, kind of shit.
Sequencers. Some weird sequences.
There's some phaser strings. How's that for fun?
I like the phasing on that too.
And those work good with those different progressions we were trying earlier.
Oh yeah.
sci-fi movie.
This patch is bass slide, so it does it like an octave down.
Nice soft pads. Not impressed with a lot of these. I mean, it's nice to have them. I'm not likely to use them for much. Oh, that one should. Yeah, that one modulates with the wheel. You are listening to songs from space.
A galaxy far, far away. There were synth sounds.
Man, I really got to hit the keys hard just to get it to make a
Get it to do it.
Okay, now we're talking Floyd. Oh, this reminds me of Vangelis. Yeah, I could totally put some piano on top of that. Yeah, I can work with that.
Absolutely. It's got a good sound to it. So nice to
But I
touch
still
strings.
want to go back to.
What's that?
I still always want to go back to piano.
Oh, yeah.
Like I would take that, and then I'd be doing.
think you're right. I think it was 4-7-1-6-7.
Yeah, it's a D, G to C,
Ah, C. I was hearing A instead of C.
F to B. This is the fucked up chord, and then E major, just to throw you off.
Nice.
It's funny. I keep seeing bugs or something flying on my outdoor
They're
screen.
landing on your
There's
lights.
like
Yep.
comets going by.
Yeah, landing strip over there.
Then it's got to get heavy again. In the old days, in my old band, that was known as instrumental number one.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah.
I like it. And then we
Yeah,
had our little.
one of the first arrangements I actually put together.
Nice. Now we
It's
have one that
evolved
we.
over
The one
time,
that,
but
the one that we created earlier tonight was the circle of fifths going one way, or the circle of fourths going the other way. So that's another one to whatever style to put it into, but just getting comfortable with the chords. Starting with that C, the G, the D.
C, G, B, A, E. No, now we're at the B. And now we're going flat, right?
Yep, yep.
I'm gonna have to work on that flat
The
side.
G flat. Yeah, yeah.
I got it up to the B though at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, if you want, at that point, start back at the C and go one flat at a time, working your way around the other side. So go C, F, B flat, and around that way. D flat, actually.
Oh, I missed
If you're coming around that side, because it was the CF.
Is that right?
Yep. And that was the last one, is the new
Not
G
a
flat.
traditional chord. this is D flat major, or yeah,
Yep.
D flat. If I do that a couple of times, I can get used to it.
Yeah.
Just such a. My fingers don't want to go there. That's Augustina, Boston. And I think actually they must. I think they played that in that key because it really does feel like that. Said I should move to Boston. That's the other way I could practice that. Because if
Yeah,
I
nice.
can get through that, then,
Mhm.
you know, it's what I play in C all the time just because it's.
And that's where you're starting with something that's already comfortable to your ear, and then trying to translate. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a progression I play all the time, but if
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
going to go into a new major scale, like D flat minor. Fuck. Yeah, just gotta do it a couple of times, and
I really like how it sounds in that key, also. To be
yeah, it
honest.
sounds beautiful in that key. And my hands aren't uncomfortable. The For me right now, it's trying to get that like that distance difference.
Yep. Yep.
There. Damn it. That's where I'm supposed to go. See, it's that third chord. This F. This is the one that's stumping me still. 'Cause, why does that not register? Okay. That's what I have to program in my brain because the stretch that I'm, and this is actually, it's making my, it's the fifth. You have to stretch a little to hit it.
Right. For that one, you could also invert it. You could put that F on the bottom.
Yeah, I want to get used to it dropping down this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
just got to do it a couple times. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, it's nice.
All right, I think I got it. I mean, I'm gonna forget it by the morning, but if I do it enough times, D flat major, you will be mine. See, the next trick will be to figure out how the hell I do all the other progressions I do off of that
Mm-hmm.
in that key. But that's a good start. Like, that is a progression. I play all the time in C. If I
Mm-hmm.
can do that in every major key, then everything else kind of goes behind it for me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Boston!
Very cool. And
And
yeah, that is
ironically, the song is I think it's derivative from Augustina's Boston.
nice, nice.
I didn't realize it before, but I think that is what they're playing. I just didn't realize it because they were doing it in D flat major.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like their opening chord.
Sure.
I've been trying to figure it out for years and
Nice.
just never felt compelled to go try D flat major.
It was just tonight was the night that that memory and D flat major kind of crashed into each other in your brain and went, wait a minute, there it is.
No, it kicked in as soon as I heard the chord
Mhm.
and played it that way. You know,
Mhm.
if I had played it differently, like I probably wouldn't have connected it if I had done it like just as a full chord or it's exactly how they do it. Like
It's a great exercise for the walk downs, yeah.
yeah, now I got to figure out how to walk up. That's not going to be as easy. I'm not as good on the walk ups.
That's all right. Getting being able to walk anywhere is good, and just under getting the feel and getting the sound in your ears of what those chords sound like together makes it sound like when you're doing it later, when you hit a wrong one, you just know it immediately. Whereas other
Yeah.
times it might just be like, oh, this doesn't feel quite right, but like right now it's like you're getting that sound locked in there for. Nice.
And I still am. Uh, I still really do kind of go by ear feel more than I know chords and I do know my theory, but even when I'm playing them, I'm still like, does this feel right? Does this sound right? Is this what want it to sound like?
Yep. And I've
Does it
started
sound
learning
like it's
how
going up? Does it sound like it's going down?
the pentatonics help so much, because just thinning it out to a pentatonic, I mean, there's still several different scales that could work for what you're doing, but if you can figure out which pentatonic works, it's just so easy to just have like 3 of those notes in one hand and 2 in the other hand, and just the main idea is that as long as you're focused on the like that group of 3 notes, the first one of those 3 is going to be your major root. So if you're doing, and you're always coming back to that one landing there, you're feeling like a C major pentatonic. But if you're landing and feeling the second one of the 2, then that's leaving you to an A minor pentatonic.
Go right down that.
And just working your way around those, and that's really getting comfy with those is important, because any scale can be kind of boiled down to those 5 notes that work, and you can kind of work from there and expand your way out from there.
So 5.
And what you were doing a second ago also, by leaving any one particular one of them out, can change the sound also. So like if you leave out the second one all the time, it's going to sound different than if you leave out the fourth one all the time.
Oh yeah. Wow, you really get depending on which one you leave out, you really get different. I mean, this one really sounds nice. You leave out the 4th. That one sounds nice. If you leave out the 2nd, this sounds nice too. Sounds
Well,
different though. It
now
doesn't
in this
have.
case,
It doesn't
in
have
this
the
case, the first
somber
one you were
sound.
playing A minor pentatonic, and you're leaving out the G, and in the other one, you're playing what sounds more like a E minor pentatonic, leaving out the G, or leaving out, yeah. But yeah, a little bit different. What I was thinking was more take that A minor pentatonic and leave out like the C, or next time leave out the E, so you get that little bit of a skip in the middle, just to see how they each feel, because it's about getting comfortable with each interval of like the 2 notes together, but also what it sounds like with one note missing. Make it a little bit different. Otherwise, it can feel like you're just running up and down pentatonics, but if you just jump around a little bit, then that kind of makes it sound like it fits. And also throwing in chromatics every now and then is also a good thing.
I got all the variations. Yeah, removing the 3rd feels empty. Still think that's the best one.
Yeah, I like that.
It just sounds like it's ready to go.
Yeah, it does.
And if you do it and you get rid of the 2nd, it's still kind of. Now, if I get rid of the 3rd, it sounds a little empty. I mean, it's not bad, but it feels like it's missing something.
A little bit.
And if I was to get, yeah, the 4th.
Hey D, how you doing?
Maybe.
Talkin Shhh I.T tonight. Are we?
Hello, hello.
And you're fired. Have you been angified?
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been angified?
Oh,
All the
I
time.
know.
Are you guys having some fun?
Oh yeah,
Yes, indeed.
it was a
Exploring the
blast.
keyboards. All the
Well,
random sounds.
that's epic.
It is always fun. And there's always stuff that inspires, whether it's a different sound, a different song, a different rhythm. Like something will always jump out when we're
Oh
doing these
shit!
little
I think
sessions.
I finally understand the circle of fifths. I
Nice, nice.
I'm getting it.
Well, would you like to play one more to say
Sure.
goodnight?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Should it be a rumba?
Whatever you like.
How about a rumba in G? Let's see.
Did you enjoy the show tonight? Talking Shhh I.T. Did you enjoy the show tonight? Talking Shhh I.T. Well, if you enjoyed the show, well, then you know where you ought to go. To the YouTube, the Twitch, and you know right here, and tune in every night at 9. For you know what you ought to do tonight. Spread the love of Talking Shh. That's Talking Shh. Talking Shh I.T. Talking Shh. Oh, Talking Shh. Oh, Talking Shh I.T. With Glenn and Tony. Oh, Glenn and Tony. Talking Shh I.T. On Thursday night, you see. At 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Talking Shh I.T. Talking Shh. Talking Shh. Oh, Talking Shh
Got a loop.
I.T.
Loops are helpful, yeah.
I think we just got a new theme song.
Absolutely.
With Glenn and Tony. It's Talking Shh I.T. on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. EST. It's Talking Shh 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 I.T. You guys can take it from here. I hope everyone enjoyed the show tonight.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
And remember to share the love.
Big finish.
Oh, you know I love that. Talking Shh I.T.
And on
Big
that
drum.
G.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out.
Night, everyone.